Now, it's a conflict as old as the hills, and in the past 2 years, it's just become a total runaway train. But the decision by Hamas to sign on to parts of Donald Trump's plan for peace in Gaza has raised hopes in the region and beyond. It was late on Friday when the group released a statement in which it pledged to immediately enter into negotiations for the release of all the remaining hostages under what it called the necessary field conditions. It accepted an end to the war and agreed to hand over the administration of Gaza to a Palestinian body of independence supported by Arab and Islamic backing. However, Hamas remained silent on other parts of the 20-point Trump proposal, notably its own demilitarization and the offer of an amnesty and safe passage to Hamas members who decommissioned their weapons. Indirect negotiations are now in their third day, with the Americans, the Israelis, the Egyptians, the Qataris, the Turks, and Hamas all in attendance. And today is a key day, indicating whether progress can be made to end the devastating war in Gaza, which has killed tens of thousands of Palestinians, as well as more than 1,000 Israeli soldiers. In Gaza itself, for the first time in months, no deaths have been reported in the past 24 hours. So, after so much bloodshed, are we perhaps just hours away from a permanent ceasefire? Or are things still standing on the edge and still fraught with risk? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the Israeli ambassador to Nigeria, Michael Freeman. Mr. Freeman, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me, Charles.
So, will it happen? What's your assessment of the chances for success in Egypt? Because the momentum behind President Trump's Gaza peace deal seems absolutely overwhelming, and it's quite difficult, isn't it, to see what could undermine it at the moment?
Well, I hope so. But as we've seen from the last 2 years, and we've seen for longer than that even, Hamas is still the sticking point. Hamas is still blocking this. Prime Minister Netanyahu accepted every one of the 20 points that President Trump laid out in his peace plan. And Hamas said, yes, but not this, not that, not the other. So the negotiations are taking place. And we hope that Hamas will agree. We've said all along, when Hamas agree to lay down their arms and to release the hostages, this conflict will be over. So I very much hope and pray that we're there, that after 2 years and the military pressure that Israel's put on Hamas have finally understood that the way to end this is to release the 48 hostages, to lay down their arms and offer both the Palestinians in Gaza and Israelis a better future.
Well, let's take it in bits. How do you assess the response from Hamas? Because on the face of it, it appears to accept some of the broad principles, an end to the war, a prisoner exchange, and then in words at least the release of hostages, although it says that's going to be subject to the correct field conditions being met.
Well, Hamas is a barbaric terror organization that 2 years ago in a day, carried out the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, when thousands of Hamas terrorists came across the border, murdered, butchered, tortured, raped, burnt alive Israelis who were at parties, who were at festivals, who were sleeping in their beds, innocent civilians. So when we talk about Hamas, we need to remember who we're talking about here. I hope that Hamas are willing to finally understand that this should be over, they should release the hostages, that they should lay down their arms. But you can never trust a terror organization, certainly one as brutal and as evil as Hamas. So I hope that we're there, but as you say, Hamas said yes, but. And the buts are, we don't want to lay down our arms, we don't want to give up control, we want permission to carry out October the 7th again and again and again. So there will be an agreement, if Hamas agree to lay down their arms, to give up power, and to understand that they are not going to be able to carry out another October the 7th.
But obviously you're an Israeli diplomat. You read those dispatches and briefs from different parts of the world. Is it your sense that the release of all the hostages is now within reach, and that makes things look very optimistic?
I hope so. These families have suffered hell for 2 years. We know that of the 48 hostages, 20 are still alive. They have been held underground in tunnels, starved, tortured. We saw the pictures that Hamas released, the video, the sick video of Eviatar, who looked like a Holocaust survivor, the way he was all skin and bones, being forced to dig his own grave. So we really pray. I pray for the families. I pray for Israel that they will soon be released. We hope that we're there. We hope that we are very, very close. And as Prime Minister Netanyahu said, we hope that during the Jewish festival of Sukkot, with the tabernacles, which started yesterday, that we will hopefully see during this week-long festival the release of our hostages.
But is there concern that perhaps Hamas will not be able to produce the hostages fast enough? Because, I mean, according to the deal, whenever it officially begins, Hamas has to release all hostages within 72 hours. And Hamas officials have said that that's unrealistic. And we understand that Israeli military officials have essentially been saying the same thing. And in fact, they say that Hamas may not even know where some of the bodies are. So, I mean, is it a bit unrealistic to expect that all the hostages will be out in 72 hours? And if it is, how likely is it that the US and Israel will agree to change the deadline?
The President Trump has made it clear in numerous times that he expects all of the hostages to be released together in one go, not one here and one there, the dribs and drabs that Hamas have been playing with. He expects them all released. The agreement says within 72 hours. So we expect Hamas to stand by their commitments. You know, if they don't release all 72, then within the 72 hours, all 48 within the 72 hours, then the other clauses of the agreement will also have to be looked at as well. It's clear that Israel has said we will follow those other clauses, assuming that Hamas release the hostages. So they certainly know where they are. They certainly know where the live ones are, because they release these horrific videos showing the Israeli hostages in the most horrendous conditions, in terrible situation. If you can release a video, a psychological video of these hostages, then you certainly know where they are.
And that points to detail, doesn't it? Details that aren't necessarily ironed out to the satisfaction of arguably all parties. And one of those details that's been left vague is how fast Israel is going to withdraw from Gaza, because that's not stipulated and there's no timeline there. And that's clearly something that Hamas will insist on happening very fast, isn't it?
Well, we've made it clear over and over again. We have absolutely no territorial desire over Gaza. We don't want to be in Gaza. We want to leave Gaza. We never wanted to be there in the first place. This wasn't a war we started.
Yeah, but you didn't negotiate the agreement with Hamas. You negotiated it with the United States, and you put clauses there without consulting Hamas. And you didn't spell out what your timeline is, although you gave them a timeline of sort of to release the hostages.
Well, President Trump gave a very clear timeline of 72 hours. He's made that clear from the very, very beginning. In terms of the withdrawal will be based on how Hamas relate to the other clauses. If Hamas release all the hostages in 72 hours, there will be a certain withdrawal. If Hamas lay down their arms and demilitarize, there will be a further withdrawal. Things are linked together. So it's, again, as it has been for the last 2 years, this has always been up to Hamas. If Hamas agree to release the hostages, lay down their arms and give up power, then we won't be there. The only thing that we are interested in is protecting our citizens, making sure that we are safe, making sure that we are secure, making sure that Hamas can never, ever carry out this massacre and murder and torture and rape again, and getting home our 48 hostages that aren't only Israeli, by the way, and aren't only Jewish. There's one from Tanzania, there's from Nepal, there's from Thailand, there's from all around the world. And and Hamas don't care who they kidnap. They are Jews, they are Bedouin, there are many, many religions. And again, Hamas is interested only in terror. So that's our interest, is bringing them home.
And in another part of its statement, Hamas also appears to accept a key part of this proposal, that the governance of Gaza would be handed over to a committee. of technocratic Palestinians. But there is the issue of the role of the Palestinian Authority, because in the proposal it says that the PA should take control of Gaza at some point when they've done their reforms. But that's something that Israel's not interested in, is it?
Well, we've been very clear. The Palestinian Authority can have a role once they go through a reform process. Remember, this is a Palestinian Authority led by a man who pays Palestinian terrorists for killing Israelis and for killing Jews. They have a pay-for-slay policy. The policy is if you carry out a terror attack and you are arrested and you are put in an Israeli prison, the Palestinian Authority, through their official budget, pays you based on the number of people you've killed. The more people you kill, the greater money you get. So obviously you don't want to have an organization that pays people to kill Jews and to murder Israelis in charge of Gaza, because that's going to be a step backwards. So if the Palestinian Authority goes through the necessary reforms and becomes a body that is willing to live side by side with Israel and not encourage people to kill Jews and to murder innocents, then they have a role to play in Gaza.
And what do you make of the fact that that Hamas statement doesn't mention disarmament or the exile of its members, which have been obviously major Israeli demands, and which is point 6 in the plan? If Hamas does not lay down its weapons, is that a red line for Israel?
Well, President Trump, it's a red line for President Trump. He made very clear in the last couple of days, Hamas need to understand that they can have no further part in any process, and they cannot be there as a terror organization. Secretary Rubio made the point, I think yesterday or the day before, that Hamas needs to be disarmed. So it's not only Israel that's insisting on this. And I think the Palestinians themselves in Gaza will also insist on this. We've seen the way that Hamas has destroyed Gaza, has destroyed the lives of Palestinians. Over the last couple of days, we've seen footage, we've seen videos of Hamas killing Palestinians. Anybody who's disagreed with Hamas, has expressed any opposition to them, Hamas kills them. So this is not only in the interest of Israel that they should be, their arms should be decommissioned, it's in the interest of the Palestinians living in Gaza. And we know if we want to see a long-running peace and we want to see a better future, Hamas can't be there with their guns and with their rockets aiming to kill people and maim people.
So, I mean, listening to you, listening to, the people out of Israel, out of Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, where the negotiations are taking place, would it be fair to say that what we have now is not a deal, but a declaration of intention by Israel and Hamas?
So you definitely have a declaration of intent by Israel. I hope we have one from Hamas. But Hamas, as you've said and as we've discussed, have said yes, but. When they get rid of their but and it's a yes, then we will have an agreement. I hope that happens today or tomorrow or as soon as possible. As you said, the discussions and negotiations are now at very senior level taking place. President Trump, who I can't praise enough for putting this together, President Trump has made very, very clear that there needs to be a deal. Prime Minister Netanyahu has said, yes, we saw the press conference, not yes, but yes, to all 20 points. We've adopted it and agreed it. So I really hope that Hamas do the same thing. We want this war to end. We want this over. We want our hostages back, and we want Hamas to no longer pose a threat to Israel or to the Palestinians or to the region.
So if we do get to a deal, there will subsequently be an inquiry in Israel into how the October the 7th attacks were able to happen, and there's due to be an election by October next year anyway. What does the next year look like for Benjamin Netanyahu? A very uncomfortable one where he has to face up to the Israeli people about his part in the failure of October the 7th?
Well, I'm an Israeli diplomat, and even Israeli diplomats have their limitations, so I don't know that I could predict what's going to happen in the next year in Israel. Israel's one of the most dynamic, exciting countries in the world, and it's very difficult to know what's going to happen
tomorrow. It's also a democracy that holds people to account.
Absolutely, and there's no question there will be an inquiry. Prime Minister Netanyahu has made it clear that when this war is over, there will be an inquiry to understand what happened. So there will be an inquiry that will take place. In terms of politics, Israel, as you say, is a democracy, and we will see what happens. Sometimes sometime in the next year, there will be an election within the year. But you never know what's going to happen in elections. We've seen across the world that elections that you think you know the results suddenly turn. So we will wait and see. What I do know is that it will be a year of recovery for the Israeli people. It will be a year of recovery for Israel as a society. And we've already seen that the Israeli stock market is reaching new highs. We've seen Israeli development and Israeli technology and Israeli medical advances continuing, agricultural, high-tech, all of those things. So I would expect that in the next year, Israeli agriculture, tech, high-tech, and all of our developments will increase, and we will see more Israeli advances around the world.
But if he's able to reach a deal in which Hamas does not exist any longer in Gaza, might that be a chip for him to bargain with and perhaps throw him a political lifeline and maybe even win him re-election?
Well, in Israel, as I said, you never know what's going to happen in elections. Prime Minister Netanyahu is the longest-serving Prime Minister in Israel's history. He's been counted down and out numerous times, and every time has come back and led the country. There are also many other potential leaders of Israel. We're a democracy. We have many potential leaders. And when the election happens, what is important is that every Israeli will have the right to vote, whether they are Jewish, whether they are Muslim, whether they are Christian, whether they are Cherkessim, whether they are Bedouin, whatever they are, they will be able to come and vote. And that's not a given in the Middle East. You know, there's only one country in the entire Middle East that has true, free and fair elections with a free and fair press that will be able to reflect those elections. And so I think we should celebrate the fact that Israel is that democracy, that we are going to have elections rather than worrying about who's going to win now. And next year we can have a conversation when the elections are called about where we're at with those.
Right. I mean, I know you're obviously a diplomat under his administration, but I mean, do you know him personally? I mean, do you sort of is he a chum of yours? I mean, do you sort of crack jokes with him, because he comes across as an incredibly stern person, doesn't he?
Well, my direct supervisor is obviously the foreign minister. I've had the honour and the privilege of meeting Prime Minister Netanyahu in the past, but everybody who's worked with Prime Minister Netanyahu says that he is an incredibly smart man, somebody who is very personable as well on a one-to-one basis, and has proven over the last number of years that he knows how to lead the state of Israel. You don't get elected the number of times that he has, and you don't get to be the longest-serving Prime Minister of the state of Israel without having significant skills and abilities. And so I'm sure that the Israeli people will judge him on his history, on his record, on what he's promising for the future, and will do so with every other candidate as well that is running. But at this point, Israel is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's bringing back our hostages, of making sure that Israel is safe and secure. And so I hope at this point the most important thing is that the 48 hostages return, that the 48 hostages come home, and that we can finally put this chapter of October the 7th, the first stage, behind us, and we can start to rebuild.
Right. And just before we go, we've got less than a minute, a word briefly about what is happening now in Gaza. Is it a fact that the IDF has now halted all strikes on the Strip and is effectively preparing now for the implementation of the deal, or is Gaza still an active war zone?
Well, the Israeli Defense Force have taken defensive positions and are responding to imminent threats. And we've seen over the last day or two that Hamas are still carrying out attempts to attack Israeli soldiers. They're still trying to launch attacks and launch roadside bombs and kill and even still kidnap soldiers. So when we see activity and terror activity, we're responding and taking actions. But the main aim to take over Gaza City has been put on hold at the moment whilst we wait for the outcome of what we hope will be fruitful discussions in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Mr. Freeman, thank you very much indeed. Michael Freeman is the Israeli ambassador to Nigeria. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much.